What's up, everyone? Bryan here from Xact IT Solutions. I hope everyone's having a great day. We're here with another Cyber Awareness Month video. Today is October 13th, 2020, and we're going to get into a study that was done, or a blog report that was put out by Cyber Defense over at Accenture that kind of highlights a lot of the things that I talk about in my videos on this channel. And it goes into a little bit more detail, which is kind of interesting, and I'd like to cover that. But before we get into the content, I just want to remind everyone that we don't get paid for this channel and the content that we put out. We don't get paid by YouTube. We don't get sponsored in any way. So our only fee, the only thing that we ask of our people that watch this is that if you find anything interesting, if you're entertained in any way, if you learn something new through the videos on this channel, if you could please just hit the little like button down below the video. And if you're so inclined, think about or considering subscribing to our channel. It really helps us on the YouTube platform get our videos out there and share the word about cybersecurity. It also allows us to update you when we put out new videos, and it motivates us to put out new videos and new content like this as well, so we can keep everyone cyber aware and help protect your business, and not only that, yourself. So without further ado, let's jump into the content for today. So here we go. We have this report that was put out by Paul Mansfield, who's a cyber threat intelligence analyst over at Accenture. They monitor the dark web similar to what we do. We constantly go into the dark web to see what's happening, who's being attacked, maybe pick up some chatter on some things that could be happening on the dark web. And here we have a blog post and a pretty in-depth detail of what's going on today, as of October 2020 on the dark web. And basically, to summarize, there is a destructive relationship between network access sellers and ransomware groups. Now, there is nothing different between what is happening here and what happens in regular business, in the course of your regular business. I'm sure if you own a business or you work in a business and you're watching this, you are probably familiar with the fact that you have people that do things for your company who are not your employees. You outsource that to a firm. A lot of companies don't do the things that they aren't what their core competency is. They outsource that. Unless you're a really big company and you can afford to, build out your own maybe IT department or your own marketing department. A lot of that gets outsourced, and that's what we're seeing here. Again, I've said it before in other videos, these are very well run criminal operations. They run them just like businesses, and from what I've seen, they run these businesses a lot better than some of the real businesses that I've seen out there. So what is a network access seller? So think about it like this. There on the dark web, there are, let's put it like this, there are sites out there that operate like eBay or like Amazon, where somebody can go and they can post something for sale. In this case, network access sellers sell network access. They have a foothold, or they have the ability to get on a network and provide that network access to another criminal, say a ransomware person or a person who has access to ransomware. So the majority of the network access offerings are advertised on underground forums with some or all the following information. Now think of this like an eBay listing. The eBay listing is going to have, or the listing is going to have a generalized victim industry information, like are they a private corporation, are they a medical institution, are they a government agency, are they in education, and they give you an idea of the industry they're in. They also will tell you the country that they're in. They also will tell you what kind of network access is for sale. Say They are able to log into a network using a VPN connection. They are able to log into a network using a Citrix connection or an RDP connection. And that's remote desktop if you don't know what RDP means. Number of machines that are on the network that they might have access to. And any other additional company information, say the number of employees or revenue. And the amount of information provided, that can occasionally give a hint to the ransomware people as to what they could potentially be dealing with here. So if, the idea here is you have only a finite amount of companies that are so big. Not every company has 10,000 employees or what have you. So when somebody who's looking to buy these types of services is looking at the listing, if you say you're in, let's say, the medical industry in the United States, and maybe they might list the state or something like that, and what kind of access they have, and the number of employees and the revenue level, you can narrow it down to maybe a dozen or so companies that fit that bill, and you know who you're targeting or close to targeting at that point, if they don't come right out and just provide enough information around the company where you can pretty much figure out who it is. So the network, it goes on to say network access sales are highly profitable. From the article itself, it says, that it says a Nikolai Threat Group, aka FX MSP, popularized selling network access beginning in 2018, proving that there was a large demand for their service and that regular sales could be highly profitable. Although financial data remains central to underground economies, sensitive personally identifiable information and company data, or the promise of access to this data, is profitable because the data can be further monetized through direct sale or by holding it for ransom. So it is a destructive overlap with ransomware gains, because now you have two very specialized individuals or companies that are now targeting a company. It doesn't need to be one really smart hacker who knows how to do everything, knows how to gain access to a network, knows how to deploy ransomware. Now you have guys specializing in developing ransomware tools and guys who are trying to bust down the front door of networks or use stolen keys to unlock the door and get into a network, aka they have your VPN username and password and they use that to get into your network. And then it goes on to say that they assess with high confidence that this ecosystem will continue to thrive so long as reputable invite-only dark web forums provide the platform on which network access sellers and ransomware gangs can securely exchange goods or services. Now, what this means is that there's websites set up on the dark web that are controlled. They're controlled access. Only people who have been vetted, verified, that the people who are running these forums know who they're letting in, and they only let in people who've been vetted. And in that process, people, when you start to interact and engage with people and maybe sell some things to people, you get rated. You get rated just like you do on eBay, whether you're a reputable seller or not. So if you sell network access to somebody and they're not able to gain network access, or they're not able to have a persistent enough level of access to where they can do anything, they're going to rate you low versus somebody who may provide access where they're able to deploy the ransomware and successfully get paid. They're going to get a high reputation in that environment. Just think about eBay and how that works. It's exactly how it works on the dark web. So you sell enough of these network accesses, and then your rating goes up, and then people start to use you more and more for network access. You can start to charge more money for that access because they know you're reliable. It's a very, very lucrative business model that they have going on here on the dark web, and I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention because I don't think people really fully understand what the heck happens out there and how well set up this actually is. Not only that, but just think about it. There's nothing stopping your employees from going onto one of these forums and selling access to your network with their credentials. So companies really need to start thinking about how they're going to protect themselves from these types of things, but not only from hackers on the outside, but employees on the inside who decide that they want to get paid a certain amount of money and give access to these hackers to your network, which they have because they're an employee of yours. This is absolutely a valid threat that I'm bringing to your attention. So it goes on to say an increasing number of actors spearheaded by prolific access sellers Ellis J. Douglas, he's a seller, are cataloging breach companies by industry, country, access level, price, and other factors and advertising them on a single thread, allowing for a streamlined purchasing process for potential buyers. This ensures that network access buyers do not have to monitor multiple threads across several platforms and allow for easier identification of access availability to a specific desired industry. So if you take a look at what we have here, I'm going to try to focus in on this for you guys, but this is the image of this seller, and this seller says, according to a huge number of my targets, I decided to create a main thread to release and share targets. In this topic, I will introduce like this form. So he's creating this, and he's creating the country, business, government, number, category, revenue according to Zoom info. If target is in business category, price in US dollars, how much you want. So example, UK business and number category 001. They're in aerospace and engineering. Their revenue is $5 million. The price for access is $1,500. And then, so that's what these listings look like right here. This is exactly what you can see. He has a good reputation there, as you can see, and then conditions. If someone buy a target, I post the topic. For example, all of my targets are Microsoft based. All of my targets are with a domain controller, dependent to target access, RDP or shell or both. For request contact, just PM in the form. I will send POC and sell target to user older than 3 months. Will high activity or 5 months from join to form. So basically he's saying I'm not going to sell to you if you're new. He doesn't want to sell to law enforcement, etc., etc. So this is what a listing looks like on the dark web. So I just wanted to kind of go into that and show you that. And then this article goes on to say that Outlook favors this destructive duo. Network access selling has progressed from a niche underground offering throughout 2017 to a central pillar of criminal underground activity in 2020. Although it is difficult to prove that an advertised network access is linked to a specific ransomware attack, from analysis of threat actor activity, we assess with high confidence that some of the accesses are being purchased by ransomware groups and affiliates, thereby enabling potentially devastating ransomware attacks on corporate entities. While compromised RDP connection remain the primary initial entry vector used by network access sellers, and really why anybody has RDP enabled from the outside anyway today is beyond me. It's been years since this should have shut down, and if it continues today, you kind of deserve what you get. But these actors are increasingly diversifying their methods, which poses a threat to current mitigation efforts and substantially expands a corporation's exploitable attack surface. And I mentioned this yesterday in my video where I said that companies that don't take cybersecurity seriously are not just causing a problem for themselves, but they're causing a problem for everybody. And that's exactly what this article confirms, that you're making it more difficult for everybody all around to deal with these problems and deal with this stuff. So they go on to say that we assess with high confidence that the relationship between initial access broker and ransomware group will continue to thrive in 2020 and beyond, earning the threat actors behind it huge profits. This symbiotic relationship facilitates continuous targeting of government and corporate entities and streamlines the network compromises process, allowing cyber criminals to act quicker and more efficient. So essentially, the cyber criminals can get in. They know they have access. They can communicate with one another because they now have these relationships, and they can deploy ransomware more effectively on your network than ever before. So that's why we're seeing a huge uptick in attacks, and why this is a huge problem for not only U.S. businesses but for the U.S. government. And everybody needs to take cybersecurity awareness and cybersecurity seriously. And this is another kind of data point that we can look at to say, wow, this stuff is pretty serious. So I'll link to the full report down below in this article, but then it finally comes in the blog and talks about mitigation and what we can do to help prevent these things happening, or these tactics being used against our organizations. So there's some really good points that were brought up here that I don't think a lot of businesses realize are things that they should be doing, or realize that they're available to them. A lot of these things you're not going to be able to do on your own, quite frankly. You're going to have to outsource this, just like the hackers do, to companies that know how to do this stuff. And what I'm talking about is establishing a proactive dark web hunting and monitoring capability to determine your organization's risk profile and identify potential threats. When we do this at Xact IT for our clients, we constantly go out on the dark web and try to monitor things to see if any of our clients could potentially be a target. It's not an easy task by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something that companies need to consider doing. Regularly back up data, test the backups, and ensure backups are not connected to their corresponding networks and computers. Put it in the comments below. When's the last time you tested your backup? When's the last time you've done a full DR test to make sure that your systems can actually be recovered in the event that something like this happens? You employ best practices for using remote desktop protocols, such as auditing the network for systems using RDP, closing unused RDP ports, applying two-factor authentication wherever possible, and logging RDP logon attempts. So this is all stuff you should be doing to make sure that nobody is misusing your system or using RDP in a way that, is a surprise to you one day because you found out somebody was doing it. It also goes on to say, ensuring employees receive awareness training to decrease their vulnerability to targeted attacks. This is something you definitely want to provide all your employees. Or if you're an employee of a company, do you get cyber awareness training from your employer? Write down below in the comments and let us know what it looks like. Tell us what you do. Is it a once a year thing? Is it a twice a year thing? 3 times a year thing? At Xact IT, we provide our clients' employees with weekly cybersecurity training, and that is the best and most effective way to do it. Set antivirus and anti-malware solutions to automatically update and conduct regular scans. This stuff, it sounds pretty basic, but a lot of companies, we go in and we audit them and they're not doing this stuff, or they think it's being done by somebody and it's not. Formulate a robust incident response plan, business continuity plan, disaster recovery plan, and simulate a media response to a successful attack if appropriate. Incorporate response plans for malware or wiper attacks into the organization's continuity of operations plans. Check network logs for indicators related to known ransomware. Train users to identify and safely handle social engineering emails that could be a part of a phishing campaign. So this was a great article. I really applaud Accenture and Paul Mansfield for putting this out. It gives everyone a really good look as to what the heck is going on the dark web and how these relationships, help these attackers, penetrate companies and get ransomware on their systems. So I hope you learned something today. I hope you learned a little bit more about what the heck's going on out there in the cybersecurity world. If you did, please remember to hit the like button below. Please subscribe to our channel. Again, if you made it this far in our video, 20 minutes in, I don't know why you're not subscribed. That means you're interested in this stuff, and we're going to bring this stuff to you all the time. And if you have any comments, questions, drop them below in the comment section. And if you want to hire us or work with us in any way, shape, or form, head over to xitx.com, click on the Contact Us button, fill out the form, let us know what you'd like help with. Somebody will reach out and help you out. Have a great day, everyone. I look forward to bringing you more videos the rest of this week during Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And be well and take care.